My parents divorced when I was 3. My mom remarried when I was about 3rd grade. I lived with her until about 3rd grade, and she remarried, and they moved from Dallas down to San Antonio. And my parents decided that they wanted to keep my brother, who's 5 years older than me, and myself together with our families and stuff. So from 3rd grade on, I lived with my dad. My brother and I did. And the hard part about that was my dad had an incredibly severe temper, and he took it out on me quite a bit. And I can't recall many weeks where I wasn't beaten about 4 or 5 times a week. And pretty bad. Like, I remember a few times having to go to sleep on my stomach because from the back of my neck to the back of my knees were black and blue all the way down, because he would go in these fits of rage, and just if he had a bad day, he would take it out on me. And this went on until about 6th grade. I had kind of, I guess, a growth spurt, and I got a little bit too big to handle. So from about 6th grade to my freshman year in high school, he just emotionally tore me apart. And then my freshman year in high school, he was diagnosed with cancer. And this was bittersweet for me, because part of me was glad because I thought all this would come to an end. And the other part of me was devastated because it was my dad. He's all I knew. And looking back, I realized that my father was diagnosed when I was a freshman in high school. He passed away when I was a freshman in college. So for about 4 or 5 years there, I had front row seats to watch the gospel physically, emotionally, and spiritually change this man. And I don't say that lightly, because I didn't want Grace to be for him. But man, I saw a change daily take place. We never prayed on Christmas or Easter or anything. And I could hear him in the other room every night crying and praying for me and my brother and my mom. They had divorced when I was 3. I didn't know he owned a Bible, and every night I would go in and he would be asleep with his face in the Word. I was like, who is this guy? I saw his heart break and change. And there were many nights that we would have conversations, and at some point he'd be in tears saying, I'm so sorry for what I've done to you. I wish I could fix it. And looking back, in a small way, he was. But the change was so intense that by the time he passed away, man, I was scared I was going to be like him one day and be this bad husband and terrible father. That by the time he passed away, he's the guy I wanted to be when I grew up. If I ever grow up. He's still to this day one of the godliest men I've ever known. And you know, I'm married. I've been married for almost 18 years. I got 5 kids. And yeah. It's like a stunt, right? But, I've got a boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. There's Sam, who's 13, Gracie's 10, Charlie's 8, and there's like 2 more younger than him. And they keep changing every year. But no, it's Sophie and Miles are my 2 younger ones. And man, our house is like a circus you don't want to leave. But you know, to say the least, we've had our issues, man. We've gone through a lot of stuff. I don't deal well with stress or tragedy or anything. A lot of it has to do with the way I was brought up. I think everything's my fault, right? So we decided, you know what, maybe we should go to like counsel, figure this thing out. So we went to this godly woman that was just saved my life, saved our marriage. One of the first things she said to me when we went in, she goes, you know what, we need to go back to your childhood and kind of discuss that. And I was like, no, that's not what I signed up for. I had a bad Tuesday, and we can talk about that. She was like, well, it's kind of all connected. So for a couple of years, we started to unpack all this, and sure enough, it's connected. And the one thing that she said to me that I kind of was like, I guess a breakthrough, I don't know. I know I had this like ugly cry, like this Good Will Hunting kind of cry, you know. All she said to me was, if you ever wondered what you would have looked like in a godly family environment, just watch your middle son, Charlie. He's just like you. And I started bawling. I wasn't even sure why I was crying so hard. I think because she thought we had a godly family environment. I was like, we win, let's go. And Charlie probably thinks I'm a weirdo because I stare at him a little too much. I'm always overanalyzing everything he does. Like, why'd you pick Cheerios over Fruit Loops? What's your problem? Is that where I went wrong? And Charlie's 9 now, and at the time I started thinking, man, if I could ever go back and talk to the 8 or 9-year-old version of me, what would I say to him? I could have a conversation with stuff that he was going through. How could I change that? Or would I? But I tell him to go left and not right, and stay out of my dad's way. And the blessing and the curse of a songwriter is that you write songs to get through. That's your therapy. So I thought this is a cool idea for a song, not realizing it was going to be the hardest songs ever written. So I didn't know what to say. It's like, what would I ever say to him? And then it dawned on me, I know exactly what I would say. You see, a few years ago, I mentioned this guy came into my life, and he was our first church camp we did 20-something years ago. And he came into my life a few years back and reminded me that there's nothing I can do to make Christ love me any more than he already does right now. And he's the one that challenged me to rest in the finished work of the cross. Yes. And one of the things he did that probably changed my life the most is that he would text me every day for about 2 years, "You are holy, righteous, and redeemed, and I am for you." And you know what? I started to believe it. Not only I started to realize who I am in Christ, I started to believe that somebody was actually for me. And so if I could actually go back and have this conversation with the 8-year-old version of myself, all I would say to him is, "You are holy, righteous, and redeemed," over and over and over and over again. Because if it turned my world upside down just a few years ago, how much damage could I have done if I understood it at 8? And I say all this because, man, I believe that music kind of makes a little bit of a difference. That this 3 or 4 minutes of music and these words that rhyme, I just pray that maybe you can just kind of lighten the load for some of you today. That whatever you've gone through, whatever you've done or has been done to you, I can promise you that Christ is bigger. And so maybe it frees some of you up today. This song is called "Dear Younger Me."